kind of book, isn't it, that is good fun to play with at parties. But I came across this book only recently, having read the author's previous book about 4 years ago, which was Graphology. And that's when the first time I ever took graphology seriously. The whole office, absolutely paranoid about whether or not we were displaying too much in our signatures. Michael Watts, The Naked Hand, we'll talk about in just a minute. Graphology is a serious art because you actually make a living at it, don't you? You're not a nutter, is what I'm saying.
I would say I'm sort of averagely to more than averagely neurotic, but I think that gives one a greater understanding of the various problems and neuroses that afflict most of this society. But graphology is a very serious discipline, and in the right hands it can give a very accurate portrait of personality and behaviour.
Is it mumbo-jumbo?
It is not at all mumbo-jumbo. It actually falls within the realm of, you could say, it falls within the realm of body language, because it's well accepted within the field of psychology that our gestures and movements are very revealing about our personality.
Right. Now, let us talk about The Naked Hand. You actually link graphology to one's sexuality, to one's sense of sex.
Yes.
That's not a very easy leap to make, is it?
Well, I think we're sexual beings. I think sexuality is the root of root motivation behind the human species, because I think one main motive in human beings is, at the end of the day, to recreate themselves, to continue the production of the species. So sexuality is our strongest impulse, and many of the neuroses that people suffer from have their root in disturbed sexual behavior patterns. So sexuality is the driving force behind human beings.
So the driving force is sexuality, but sexuality, of course, includes love, passion, it includes aggression, affection. I've read the book, I read it last night. It's quite fascinating. It goes through all those emotions, and they seem, to someone who doesn't understand the science, it seems an enormous amount to expect that one simple piece of script can possibly define those.
That's why the only way to explain graphology to people is to actually do an analysis. To begin with, Gary's got a very clear, systematic manner of thinking and is extremely sceptical towards any new ideas unless he's fully satisfied they're grounded on solid facts. He welcomes challenges, and when his eyes are set upon a goal, he's fueled by an incredible intensity of emotion and powerful determination.
Slowly. Intensity of emotion. Are you very emotional?
Yeah, I would say I am.
His brain is rarely, if ever, quiet, as he's continually subjecting his environment to intense analysis, which also makes him a very, very skillful problem solver. And in relationship, he can exhibit a very quarrelsome streak if his partner attempts to stand in the way of his plans.
Do you recognise yourself in all that?
I think it's actually very accurate.
Yes, that's great. Just your signature now would be plenty. Well, the first thing I'm noticing is that the lower stems in your writing are very long. They're about 4 times the size of the vowel height. That shows tremendous physical stamina. I mean, you're the sort of person who can keep on the move and going long after those around you are on their last legs.
Oh, really? What's showing that?
The very long stems on letters such as G. Now, I also notice that your writing has a certain restlessness to it, which is typical of the creative mind. I mean, if you have a writing that's absolutely incredibly neat and robot-like, then the creativity in that personality is being suppressed. So this shows a very creative personality. Your signature, although it's enlarged, you can see that it belongs to your writing, which shows that you're essentially someone who has a very authentic personality. What you see is what you get, and it actually comes on over the air as that.
I think this is cool.
Large capitals show your tremendous showmanship. So although what you see is what you get, you'll sometimes use showmanship to create a nice impression, which anyone does who has that quality.
Okay, well, I hope I've created a nice impression with you. Thank you very much, Michael, for being with us. The book is called Love Script.
So hit us with the basic theory, Michael.
Okay, Jane. The theory of graphology is based on the fact that handwriting is in fact body language, and it's well accepted that body language is a very revealing method of assessing personality and human emotions.
What, body language with your pen?
Well, body language is actually body movement, and the hand is producing very subtle body motions using the thumb and index finger, and these are frozen on paper with the advantage that you have plenty time to analyze them. Also, whereas ordinary body language is susceptible to censorship, handwriting generally is not censored unless the person happens to know a lot about graphology and is purposely manipulating his writing.
We're not going to disguise whose writing this is, actually. Our first example, first sample, sounds a bit disgusting, is Nina's.
Well, if you look at Nina's writing, you notice that there's a degeneration of many of the letters within words, which is a sign of excessive speed in the personality, suggesting that you're somewhat of an adrenaline addict. Now, that has positive and negative connotations. On the positive side, you'll be the sort of person who can respond to emergency situations at an instant's notice. On the negative side, you may tend at times to overreact unnecessarily to what may be trivial circumstances. You have a great deal of energy showing in your writing and an extremely vivid imagination with loads of resourcefulness. That's actually shown by the large balloon-shaped loops you have in the lower sections of your writing.
I always thought balloon-shaped loops was to do with your sexuality, actually.
That also, but I was told when I came on this show that I
on
would
no
avoid
account were we to get dirty.
No, that's right. It's actually in the area
Nothing
of
below the loops.
Well, vivid imagination applies to all sections of life, including one's sexuality. So when you see someone with a great deal of resourcefulness and a vivid imagination, you can be sure that that will be applied in the sexual zone of their life as well.
This explains the chandelier in our bedroom.
Or perhaps a mirror on the ceiling. But you're the sort of person who is able to remain with one partner, I think, for a great length of time without becoming too bored with the sexual repertoire, because you're able to always think up new, innovative ways of expressing yourself sexually.
Well,
Okay, well, I was asked to do a sort of rough comparing and contrasting of these writings.
Yes.
Now, Grant has an exceptionally powerful personality, and he's overflowing with ambitious drive. And there are many positive connotations to that combination of characteristics, but also on the negative side, you may tend to control too much in the relationship. There will be an attempt to dominate at times that is bound to be strongly rejected by Nina, because Nina also has leadership drive, but it's more a desire to do her own thing without interference, whereas you not only have this leadership drive, but you have a desire to control the movements of those around you. Excellent managerial potential.
You've
also,
been talking in the green room, haven't you?
I haven't spoken to anyone about it.
He hasn't spoken to either of us, actually.
I don't know if that's for me to judge. From the outside, I can feel that I do have a controlling aspect about me, which is quite right.
Yes.
Absolutely right.
And he does take a sort of managerial line with you, doesn't he?
Oh, no, he likes to control. But then, of course, I'm extremely stubborn. But oddly enough, we never fight. We just don't argue.
Well,
Can you believe that we don't argue?
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to say one tremendous saving grace in your relationship is you both have an excellent sense of humour, and I think when things heat up too much, you defuse the situation.
Absolutely. That is exactly what happens. That is exactly what happens.
But if you didn't have such, both of you have got, you know, extraordinarily powerful senses of humour. And if you didn't have that trait, I think you would be dealing with a lot of conflict. And I think generally Grant would win.
Oh, really?
Actually, so far I have.
There are all sorts of things that you can tell about people. The way they dress, the way they look, the way they talk, and the way they write. It's called Graphology. It's also the title of a brand new book out in the shops at the moment by Michael Watts. And Michael's here in the studio. Michael.
Hello, Gavin.
The book isn't actually about the history of graphology. It's about how to become a graphology detective, if you like. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And that's a very good way of putting it, because much as the fictional character Sherlock Holmes does, he takes a single clue and builds up a whole portrait of a personality. Well, you're essentially doing the same thing when you analyse writing.
But how do you actually go about it?
Well, what you're actually doing is looking at different letter shapes in the writing, and each individual letter shape has its own meaning, which you can find by looking in the index in the book, which will give you a page number that describes the meaning attributed to the personality.
But what about if you're left-handed and you're forced to write with your right hand, or if you're forced to write in a certain way? And my father was forced to write with his right hand when he was younger.
Well, since writing is an expression of the personality, you should never try and straitjacket someone's personality by altering their writing. And especially if someone's left-handed and you force them to write with their right hand, you're subjecting them to intense stress. So you will produce stress in the personality and it will show up in the writing.
And what about if you write in a messy way? Does that mean you're a messy person?
Sometimes it does, but on the other hand, it can show tremendous creative power that's welling up from the resources in the subconscious mind, and these people can be very artistic. This is an absolutely fascinating writing because there's so much physical restless activity in it. In fact, this man is absolutely bursting, bouncing and bubbling with so much physical energy, he's almost hopping out of his skin. And don't even try to tell him to stop talking, it won't work. He just goes on and on and on, and if there's no one to talk to, he'll talk to himself or the nearest pet cat or dog.
I actually have it. Who do you think that is? Yeah. Yes. In fact, it is Steve Johnson, a very accurate one about Steve. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My initial impression is this is the handwriting of someone who has exceptional mental focus. They can focus their attention single-mindedly for a great deal of time in isolation, and their mental stamina is absolutely enormous, so they can keep on going when other people around them would be dropping. However,
What do you get that? What do you get that from?
Well, the extreme small size of the writing is an indication. I mean, if anyone were to try and copy this script, they would discover that it requires an enormous amount of mental focus just to complete the act of writing letters in such a small fashion. But I wanted to go on and say, you mention a suggestion that perhaps your writing was turned down as a result of a graphological report, and I can say that you have many talents. You've got a resourceful imagination, and you have good social skills potentially, but there's something blocking you, and that is your nature is very emotionally repressed. And I would suggest that perhaps your childhood, for some reason or another, suppressed the full expression of your personality and self-esteem. And your self-esteem is actually shown to be extremely low at times. And I think you should think about getting into some sort of assertiveness training,
Jackie?
because you're not expressing yourself in the best possible light.
Okay, Jackie, what do you make of that?
I agree with that. I have had my ups and downs when I was young emotionally.
Really? So difficult childhood,
Yeah.
you say?
You really do need to think about getting some sort of counselling to allow you to allow the full flowering of your personal talents and potentials.
Okay, Jackie, how do you respond to that?
I agree, because I seem to undertake things, but then I don't have the confidence in myself. I always question what I do.
To begin with, you want a firm pressure in the writing. If there's weak pressure, then there's no energy behind the sexuality.
Right.
Secondly, you look for long, lower extensions, and I don't mean the ones between their legs, I mean the ones you
Right.
see on the writing.
Long, lower extensions, we're taking notes. Right,
However,
okay.
long, lower extensions are not enough, because if those long, lower extensions, which reveal high-level physical and sexual endurance, are formed with very close, narrow loops, it means
so takes a loop up, right?
Yeah, if someone takes a loop up and it's extremely narrow, they may have the energy, but they're too blocked sexually to express that energy in an open way. So you're looking for large balloon-shaped loops which show
Right.
a lack of sexual inhibition and a very vivid sexual fantasy.
Now, we're going to ask Michael to take... Well, you've taken a look at Steve's
Yes.
handwriting. Does Steve know that you've brought a copy of his
Yes, he
handwriting
does.
case?
Yeah.
Haven't you? Oh, good. At least they're honest with one another. OK, so let's take a look at Steve's handwriting.
Okay, well,
And
I
you
did a
tell us
short...
that.
I did a short analysis of Steve's writing, followed by a little comparison between the two.
Yeah.
And I found that Steve's actually got a very old-fashioned sense of loyalty, more reminiscent of times gone by. I mean, he really...
Maxine nodding like mad already, yeah.
Yeah, he really values close friendship and family values in ways that are not common today. He's also got an incredibly good memory for details, and I think that Maxine probably finds that very romantic, because he'll remember all the tiny little details of every single romantic episode.
Isn't
they've
that fabulous?
experienced.
Romantic. I just thought, great,
That's
you
a
tell
good
them
one
once
there.
what you like and then they remember and do it again. Sorry, to carry on, Michael.
But what's incredible is if you flash up the handwritings on the screen, you'll see that even to a graphologist's eye, they're remarkably similar.
What, Maxine's...
Maxine's
All right,
and
let's see
Steve both have
Maxine's.
incredibly similar writing. Now, similar writing in this sense, even from a, as I say, it's even from a graphological perspective, shows that the personalities are incredibly similar. That doesn't always mean that the personalities will be compatible. Sometimes opposite attracts. But in this particular case, not only are their personalities very similar, but they're extremely compatible.
What about sexually compatible? Is that another... I mean...
Yeah, well,
Maxine's obviously sitting here nodding, going, yes, we are, but, I mean, you could see... So the similarity in the handwriting would suggest they were sexually compatible as well?
They're extremely compatible. Both place far more value on the expression of warm romantic love and affection as against the expression of wild sexual lust.
Okay.
So for them...
Right, so just to come to Maxine, is that ringing bells for you? You're thinking, yes, that's my Steve?
Yeah.
What do you make of this, then?
Okay. Well, there's 3 doodles, obviously done by the same person. I'm going to home in on this doodle here. It's a doodle of flowers, or a daisy chain, and the reason I'm picking that one...
That's the bottom right-hand corner, yeah?
It's the bottom right-hand corner. And the reason I'm picking that is because it's quite a common doodle. Now,
flowers, I'm going to read directly out of this book because I think it'll demonstrate the ease with which one can use it. Flowers are typically drawn by people in love who have a very childlike, innocent side to their nature. Their attitude to love, sex and relationships will be charmingly refreshing, though somewhat adolescent and immature at times. These individuals are invariably very sentimental, compassionate and romantic, and are generally only able to really enjoy sex if it goes hand in hand with deep feelings of mutual love. This is certainly not the type who enjoys a passionately erotic one-night stand with a complete stranger. In a long-term relationship, such people are likely to be loyal and faithful and will undoubtedly be devastated if a partner deceives them with another lover.
All right, we gave you some samples to analyse. We can have a look at them here, actually. This is the first sample. What do you make from that?
Okay, to begin with, sample A shows enormously high stamina. Now, this can be seen from the long extensions, the long descending lines on letters such as G. Now, normally you would look for a descending line approximately 3 to 4 times the size of the central area of the writing. That is the area occupied by the vowel formations.
Right.
Now, in this particular example, some of these G's descend as much as 5 or 6 times, which shows an absolute powerhouse of energy and vitality.
Well, it would need to be, because that's our producer, and she's been here from about 8 o'clock this morning.
We've got another one. What about this one?
Okay. The first thing that one notices is the large formation of capital letters. This shows this person has excellent showmanship, exuding charisma. They have a warm, friendly, enthusiastic manner and a good sense of humour. That second part is shown by the ascending lines, and a good sense of humour is shown by wavy T formations. Now, this person speaks with ease and assurance, establishing a rapport with other people remarkably quickly. They have genuine compassion for other people, as well as a fighting spirit, and they certainly need to be in the public eye because they thrive on admiration and respect, and because they have almost a sixth sense for what's going on, and they can accurately sense what other people are thinking and feeling, but they're very sensitive to criticism as well.
Well, that's all very fascinating.
Okay, well, one last thing I'll just say is Roy obviously has tremendous showmanship and a very open manner, but actually people close to him will know that it takes a long time for him to actually really trust someone at a deep level, because you actually have a very private personality that lies underneath the showmanship that you need to use for what you do. So that's something that...
clever stuff.
Is it true, Roy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm on to number 4.
This is Loretta. This is Roy's other half.
Your girlfriend. Well, I think a lot of the time she's a great support to you in the area of self-esteem, because you have good self-esteem and it comes over in your manner of dealing with people. But if that ever ebbs in any way, she can compensate for any reductions you feel and boost your ego again, because she has a tremendous amount of inner self-confidence and also a very emotionally independent personality. She's more emotionally independent than you are, and this is she's like a strong anchor for you to hold on to in times of great stress. She can't match your physical energy, no way about that, but in terms of social energy, she can even be more energetic, so she can keep going in party situations perhaps as long or longer than you.
Definitely true.
Because,
really?
Because she's really very much turned on by social situations. She just loves people. She hasn't got anywhere near the amount of privacy in the personality that you have. She just loves to be around people all the time, whereas you need your private time. You need your solitude.
Oh, that's very good.
Is it, Roy? Really?
Yes,
You're not just being polite?
No, not at all, no. I would say that's rubbish if it was, but it's not.
Yeah, fantastic.